Hi everybody, and welcome to Garden Style. So today I thought I would cover winter blooming plants. This may include a few shrubs as well as some perennials, but I figured this was a good time to do this as your nurseries are starting to get a lot of these plants in. And I just wanted to show you this behind me. This beautiful shrub is a Pieris, and this happens to be flame. And I will flash a picture of it for you in the spring and the summer and what it looks like, because the new growth is incredible. But the way this has grown from a distance, it almost looks like a Christmas tree during the spring, because we'll get this new growth up at the top of it, and it almost looks like a red star on it. So you'll see what I mean when I flash the picture up there for you. But this is one of those shrubs that will actually start to get its buds on it during the fall. And you'll see them hang on until we get into February, March, and then all of a sudden you'll see it burst into bloom. And the most amazing thing about a Pieris is its new growth. There are so many different varieties out there where you get the dark reds, you get bright orange, they gradually start to turn. And in this case, this one actually happens to be variegated. In fact, let me get up a little closer for you. But you can see the beautiful leaves that it keeps on it during the wintertime. And it's been through ice storms and everything else. And it's gotten quite tall. I have not trimmed it. I haven't done anything to it. So give you an idea how low maintenance they are. But what a fantastic shrub to put in your gardens. And this is called Pieris. It's part of the Andromeda series. And they're just stunning. Absolutely stunning. So anyway, I figured I'd start off with him first because he's just a gorgeous specimen here in the yard. So the next fabulous winter bloomer I wanted to talk about today is Camellias. Now there are two different types of camellias. There are your Camellia japonicas and Camellia Sasanqua. Your Sasanquas can actually start blooming as early as December and keep on blooming until January, February. And then you have your Japonicas, which usually start to take over after that and start blooming in February, March, and April. Now your Sasanqua camellias will get about 12 feet tall and make an excellent hedge plant. So any of you who have shady areas on the north or east side of your home, definitely consider camellias because they're fast growing and they just look amazing. And then as you'll see in the pictures that I'm showing here, you can see some of the beautiful flowers. Now, Sasanqua camellias are usually a single flower, and they get about 2 to 3 inches across, whereas your Japonica camellias look elegant. A lot of those have your double blooms, triple blooms. They almost look like a rose, some of them, and they come in all kinds of shades of red as well as white, yellow. Some of them have a variegation in them, and they're just stunning. So if you've never planted one before, they're actually very easy to grow once you get them established after the first year. They do require shade, to part shade. Your Japonicas can actually take a little more sun than your Sasanqua can. Nice morning sun. Try and keep them out of the late afternoon sun so you don't scorch their leaves, but a Japonica can handle that a little bit more. Japonica camellias. Trying to say that fast 3 times. Whereas your Sasanquas actually prefer a little more shade. So camellias is another great one to start adding to the garden. Another fantastic shrub would be witch hazel. Now we carry 2 types of witch hazel in the nursery, and you'll see in the pictures here. We have a bright yellow, Arnold's Promise is the name of it. And the other one is Jelena, which is more of a coppery orange, and they are stunning out in the garden. They kind of have a fountain shape. They can get pretty tall as well. They can get up to 10 feet, and they are actually pretty hardy from zone 5 to zone 9. And if I didn't mention the zones on the camellias, your camellias can be as hardy as zone 5 to zone 9 as well. So perfect for a zone 8 area, which is where I'm speaking from at the moment. But then there is also a winter hazel. not to be confused with witch hazel. Your winter hazel, which comes from the Corylopsis family, Corylopsis. One of my favorites is actually a buttercup hazel. They're just stunning. You'll see in the picture here. They kind of droop down a little bit. They're a little bit of a bell-shaped flower. They're kind of a light yellow, and they're fragrant, which is a major bonus. Same with your witch hazel. They have a slight fragrance to them. Your witch hazels have a real papery, they almost look like tissue paper hanging from the blossoms. But your winter hazels, buttercup is what I'm talking about today, actually has a real flower, and they come in clusters and they kind of hang a little bit, and they just cover the entire shrub, and they're gorgeous. They're beautiful, and they're also smaller. Your winter hazels will only get about 8 feet tall and about as wide, whereas your witch hazels can get up to about 10 feet tall. So there's another fantastic flowering shrub that you can probably find in your nurseries now, because a lot of them have started blooming, and of course that's when we start to sell them, as soon as they get their blooms on them. So I encourage you to go and find those. Okay, another one of my favorite, all-time favorite blooming shrubs is the pink dawn viburnum. And I took a picture of one we have at the nursery. Its buds are all swollen. In fact, a couple of them were starting to open a little bit. You can see the little stamens sticking out. So I imagine here in the next week or so, it's going to open up. And once they open, we move them out to the front by the door, because you can smell them from a mile away. They are fantastic. It's a beautiful light pink, and same thing with the dawn viburnums. You know, they're hardy from zone 5 to 8. And they kind of have a pink, kind of a dark pink stem to them as well. So they also stand out, just their stems do, during the wintertime, which is always nice to see any kind of color whatsoever during the wintertime. But dawn viburnum, pink, is a fantastic shrub. It'll get about 8 to 10 feet tall. It can take full sun, maybe a little shade in the late afternoon, but for the most part, they're not too fussy. And the cool thing about pink dawn is you get a couple seasons of interest out of them. They'll come out with their green leaves during the spring and the summer, and then in the fall they turn this beautiful bronzy orange. And after about 3 or 4 years old, they will also start to get little berries on them, little blue berries, to add even more interest to the shrub. So pink dawn viburnum is definitely way up there on my list for you to put out in your yard for some gorgeous color and fragrance. So if you can get one near the front door or somewhere where you can pass by it during the wintertime, you'll be able to admire the fragrance. Okay, another unusual shrub that is also native here to the Northwest are Mahonias. And I've learned a whole new appreciation for them, especially with this particular variety that I'm showing you now, where its leaves started to turn bright orange red during the fall. And it's been holding his color all throughout the winter. And then lo and behold, in December, it started to send out all of these beautiful yellow blooms. Now this particular variety is called Charity, and it's very spiky. So wherever you put it, make sure it's not near a walkway or someplace where you're going to brush up against it, because it is spiky. But that's also kind of a cool texture that you can add to your garden. So don't be afraid to plant Mahonias. This particular one that I'm showing you in the picture here is called Charity, and they get about 10 to 15 feet tall. So put them in an area where you can enjoy them. And you know, again, during the fall and the winter is where it is the most interesting. And you know it's going to do well, being they're native here to the States, so they're used to all the rain in the winter, dry in the summer, and it can take full-on sun. So don't be afraid to plant them in those areas. And once it's established, it's pretty drought tolerant. It is a tough plant. And again, it's native. So, you know, just because it is native, it just makes it that much easier to grow, right? And it's also hardy from zone 7 to zone 10. So that's a few winter blooming plants that I can give you for today. One of my favorites, all-time favorites, of course, is more of a perennial, and that would be Hellebores. And I'm going to flash some pictures up there for you of the Hellebore, because it is just a fantastic little shrublet. Is kind of what I call it. Their leaves are tough. They start sending up their blooms now, here in January, and once they start blooming, they will keep on blooming until April. Now, what I like to do at this time of the year with my hellebores is I go out and I trim off all the old leaves so that their flowers will stand out. And then in the spring and the summer, when you're finally ready to cut their blooms off, give them a good feeding so that they can build up that energy and give you a really good show the following year. So hellebores is another fantastic winter blooming plant. Now, of course, at this time of the year, we just received our first shipment of primroses and pansies, and that's another great way to start adding color to the yard or even your containers. We folks, those of us at the nursery, will not bring plants in before their time because we don't want to have to babysit them either. But once you see primroses and pansies showing up, you can pretty much be assured that these plants can handle a frost or two or even snow and still keep on blooming. So you've got your primroses, pansies. I brought in Saxifrage. They're just cute little daisy-like flowers that grow in a mat. They're fantastic ground cover, and they always start to bloom early. And all I can tell you is here in the Northwest, where we get a lot of rain, just make sure to be diligent with your slug bait, because anything that's sitting in the ground right now, similar to a primrose or a pansy, you know, if you've grown them before, the slugs just love them. So make sure to get your slug bait down as well when you go to put them down. But these are all plants that you can put in right now. You can plant them immediately. And it's a great time to go visit your nurseries and see all these different winter blooming plants. And it just starts to build the excitement as we start to get closer to spring. All right, you guys. So there's a quick rundown for you. I will leave the list in the comment section. I'm probably going to be covering indoor seeds, planting indoor seeds, and the process that I use that I find is very successful for me. I'll share that with you. And of course, by all means, leave in your comments some items or subjects that you would like for me to cover in the future in my videos, pertaining to the Northwest, of course. And some of this information, for those of you who live in other parts of the country, can definitely benefit you. So I don't want to leave you guys out whatsoever. But this is the area that I live in, so these are the plants that I talk about that I am the most familiar with. So by all means, leave me some of your ideas and some of your questions in the comments below, and I'll do my best to get through them. We'll make a list. I might even do a Q&A segment at one point, go live. Haven't done that yet, so it's something I want to try this year, is going live. And of course, any more information you want to have or get, you can go to our website, sunnycrestnursery.com. I'll be posting a lot of this information there. And of course, sign up for our emails, because I send a newsletter out once or twice a month now that we're starting to get into the busier season, and start covering some of these subjects that I'm covering in my videos. So, plus some. It's impossible to try and cover it all in a video, but I'm going to do my level best this year. All right, you guys, I also wanted to thank you for all the fantastic comments and the responses that I got from my last video. This is why I love gardening so. It's just a group of people that gardening attracts, and I love you guys. Just thank you very much for all your fantastic comments. Really appreciate you sticking with me, as last year was a little rough. So this year's already off to a much better start. Okay, those of you who are out there, by all means, it's time to start getting out in the garden, get your hands dirty, and we'll talk soon. Bye for now.